Welcome to my channel. Today, we're exploring Stellar Defiance, a sci-fi journey where humanity stands strong and defies the odds across the galaxy. Dive into epic starship battles, powerful tech, and the resilience that makes us unstoppable in a universe full of challenges. If you're ready for a thrill-packed adventure in deep space, hit subscribe, and let's get started. In the vast reaches of the galaxy, the Federation of Advanced Species had long prided itself on its superiority. It was an undeniable truth that the alien races that populated the cosmos had evolved to dominate, each species with its unique capabilities honed over millennia of sophisticated biological and technological advancement. They were beings of exceptional resilience, capable of surviving in extreme environments, mastering hostile worlds, and shaping the destiny of planets and systems with little more than the push of a button. These species had explored, conquered, and colonized some of the most inhospitable planets the universe had to offer. Their science, their technology, and their culture all reflected a history of triumph in the face of adversity, a history that painted the galaxy's harshest landscapes as simple obstacles to be overcome. Yet, in all their travels, there was one thing they had never encountered: one species that threw their understanding of survival into disarray and shattered their centuries-old perceptions of life, hardship, and strength. That species was human. To the Federation's representatives, humanity was an anomaly. A young, relatively primitive species that had only recently escaped the confines of its cradle in a forgotten solar system known as the Milky Way. It was a place of wonder and intrigue for the Federation, but at first glance, humans seemed far from extraordinary. They were a soft, organic race, possessing no remarkable physical traits. Their biology was fragile, requiring delicate care in environments outside their homeworld's temperate atmosphere. In terms of raw strength, agility, or endurance, humans seemed to lack the genetic advantages that many of the galaxy's more evolved species had. But there was something about them, something that intrigued even the coldest of the Federation's observers. It wasn't until humans began exploring their galaxy first in fits and starts, then with a relentless drive, that the true nature of their resilience began to reveal itself. Humans, with their boundless curiosity and unyielding resolve, proved time and again that they could survive, thrive, and even flourish in environments that would have spelled doom for almost any other species. The first time the Federation encountered the phenomenon, it was on a planet known to all in the galaxy as a death planet. These worlds were so named for their brutal environments, extreme heat or cold, toxic atmospheres, and savage, unpredictable weather patterns. Death planets were those worlds where no living creature, by the standards of the Federation, could endure for long. Every race that had attempted to settle such planets had failed. The atmosphere was simply too harsh, the conditions too volatile. Only the most advanced technology had allowed these worlds to be explored briefly, but any attempts at colonization had been disastrous. So when the humans set their sights on a particularly brutal death planet, one that had been abandoned by every other race, the Federation's scientists were intrigued but deeply skeptical. The planet was a barren rock orbiting a dying star, its surface cracked and scorched by solar flares. The atmosphere was a thick, suffocating soup of corrosive gases. Even the strongest of the Federation's species would have been brought to their knees within hours without the most advanced life support systems. Yet humans, in their uniquely optimistic and headstrong way, made the decision to land there, without the over-reliance on the high-tech tools and artificial environments that other species had used. They chose, instead, to adapt, to bend the planet to their will, to make it their home. The Federation watched, fascinated, as the humans set about constructing a settlement on the planet's surface, their engineers and biologists working tirelessly to manipulate the environment. They didn't simply build domed cities as others might have done. They began terraforming the planet itself, adapting its inhospitable terrain to suit their needs. What was most shocking was that they didn't do this with the advanced technologies the Federation was used to seeing. They had a level of scientific understanding, yes, but they relied far more on ingenuity, persistence, and a drive that the Federation had never witnessed in any other species. The humans introduced genetically modified crops that could survive in toxic soil, engineered algae that could process the planet's deadly atmosphere, and constructed habitats that adapted to the shifting terrain with an almost organic fluidity. These changes were not done in a moment, but steadily and with stubborn tenacity, as if humanity was proving a point not to the galaxy but to themselves. Slowly but surely, the Death Planet began to transform. The Federation's own exploratory teams had considered the planet a lost cause, a place where life would never thrive. Yet, within mere decades, humans had transformed it into a functioning ecosystem that sustained entire communities. The Federation representatives who visited were stunned. They had been so sure that no species, least of all one as biologically fragile as humans, could ever hope to survive, let alone thrive, in such a harsh environment. Their initial assumptions about human fragility and weakness were brutally shattered. Humans, it turned out, had not just endured, but flourished. This was not an isolated event. Similar reports began to flood the Federation's observation channels as humans continued their expansion across the galaxy. Time and again, the Federation was forced to recalibrate its understanding of life and survival. Where once they had viewed their own species' mastery over hostile worlds as an unparalleled achievement, they now found themselves watching with awe as humanity, not with superior biology or technology, but with unrelenting determination and creativity, adapted and conquered. Every new death planet that humans claimed as their own was another reminder of how little the Federation had truly understood about life. These planets were often uninhabitable by any reasonable standards. One world was perpetually racked by violent storms that tore through the atmosphere, disintegrating everything in its path. Another had a gravity field so intense that it would crush any creature that wasn't genetically engineered to handle it. Still another had an ocean made entirely of liquid methane, with temperatures so low that they would freeze solid the blood of any being from a warm-blooded species. And yet, against all odds, humans didn't just survive, they thrived. On each new world, the Federation scouts watched in amazement as humans adapted, learning to use the environment in ways that no one had thought possible. They constructed self-sustaining biodomes in freezing, airless deserts, their ingenuity turning toxic vapors into breathable air and barren sand into fertile soil. Where others had once built towering fortresses to protect themselves from the elements, humans created delicate, flexible structures that bent with the storms rather than fighting them. They cultivated crops in underground caverns where the planet's scorching surface could never touch them, and they used the planet's hostile energy sources to fuel their colonies, turning the planet's own dangerous potential into power. To the Federation, it was as though humans were rewriting the rules of survival itself. Their species didn't rely on superior strength or technology. They relied on adaptability, the ability to bend and shift their ways of life to meet the demands of their environment. They were a species that saw obstacles not as barriers but as challenges to be met head-on, using every tool at their disposal, from brute force to scientific innovation, to overcome them. What was even more perplexing to the Federation was that this survival instinct wasn't unique to any one human colony. It was universal. It wasn't just the humans on one death planet that were thriving, it was humans everywhere. Their species was so diverse in its approaches to survival that even the Federation's most brilliant minds struggled to predict how humans would respond to new threats. Where one group would adapt through ingenuity, another would push the limits of technology, and still another would turn to biology, engineering hybrid organisms to thrive in impossible conditions. This unyielding drive to survive and thrive was something the Federation couldn't easily understand, let alone replicate. It wasn't something that could be quantified or reduced to data points, as the Federation's scientists were wont to do. It wasn't a biological trait that could be isolated in a lab experiment, nor was it a piece of technology that could be copied and mass-produced. It was something fundamentally human, something that could not be replicated by any of the galaxy's more advanced species. It was their capacity for hope, for endurance, for resilience. Humans had something that no other species had: a refusal to give up, even when every rational calculation said they should. The Federation's first reaction to humanity's triumphs was disbelief. How could it be? How could a species that had once struggled to even leave its home planet be the one to thrive in places that had been deemed beyond salvation? But disbelief quickly turned to awe. The Federation's representatives began to visit human colonies in greater numbers, eager to understand how this fragile race had defied all logic and expectation. Some began to study human resilience as if it were some kind of science, seeking to uncover the secrets of their survival and to harness them for themselves. But the truth, as it turned out, was far more complex. Humans didn't survive because they were biologically superior. They didn't survive because of their technology or their military might. They survived because they could not and would not give up. It was as simple and as extraordinary as that. Their resilience was born not of genetics, but of spirit. It was a spirit that no amount of technology could replicate, no matter how advanced the Federation's creations were. As the humans continued to expand and conquer, they became a source of wonder and concern for the Federation. On one hand, their tenacity and success were seen as a triumph of hope and willpower. On the other, they were an existential threat. The Federation had always been a powerful presence in the galaxy, but the rise of humanity, a species that could not be broken by even the harshest environments, suggested that perhaps the universe was not as safe and predictable as the Federation had always believed. What would happen if humanity's unstoppable growth continued? What would happen if they took their resilience and spread it across the stars, conquering planets that had once been considered untouchable? The possibilities were both exciting and terrifying. In the end, what the Federation's leaders began to realize was that the greatest strength of humanity was not its ability to survive in extreme conditions. It was its ability to never stop fighting, never stop adapting, and never stop believing that even the harshest death planet could be made into a home. And that, perhaps, was the greatest mystery of all. Because the galaxy had never seen a species quite like this before. Humans weren't just survivors. They were conquerors not by might, but by the sheer force of their will. And that, in the end, was the most profound and terrifying thing of all.